Hi, I'm Alex with Wade's Guitar Shop. Before we get going, pause a minute to take the Guitar Shop 101 quiz. Now the questions are on the website, and we'll give you the answers here on episode 4 of the Guitar Shop Podcast, Guitar 101. Check it out, I miss by a mile.
Welcome to the Guitar Shop Podcast, episode 4. We're going to call this episode... Oh, you got... No.
Oh. 4. Yeah.
This episode we are calling Guitar Shop 101, the basics. We're going to cover the basics. Most of you probably think you know the basics, but
you don't.
But you don't. Yeah, we'll pretty much guarantee that most people don't.
Not even us.
Well, I mean, that's one of the great things about most of our customers coming in is they realize, they don't know everything. So, I mean, there's an education for somebody every day. So, we're coming to you from Wade's Guitar Shop here in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Shout out to all of our international viewers out there on Moreau now.
Konnichiwa.
And tusen tak in Denmark.
Genau.
If you'd like to contact us, you can send us an email at wadesguitarshop@sbcglobal.net or check out the website for the Guitar Shop and for the podcast, wadesguitarshop.com. We're on iTunes and all kinds of other fun places to subscribe to the podcast. But we're going to get rolling right now. First thing we're going to take a look at is just looking at the very basics. I go through the parts of an acoustic guitar. Just kind of what the parts are called. A lot of people don't even know what to call the different parts on a guitar, so let's take a look at that right now. This is a Martin acoustic guitar. The basic parts of an acoustic guitar are the neck, which is usually a contiguous piece of mahogany with a separate fingerboard glued on the front. In this case, it's a striped ebony fingerboard, dot position markers. These little metal parts here are called the frets. This is the nut, the headstock. The headstock has tuning keys, or sometimes called key winds. This is the heel of the neck, and the heel is locked into a block inside the guitar called the neck block, usually by a very strong joint called a dovetail joint. The body of the acoustic guitar consists of a back, sides, and a front, and the front is typically called the top or the soundboard. The top has a sound hole in it, which allows the movement of air in and out. It has a bridge where the strings come and bridge across this white piece here called the saddle, and are held into the bridge with these little pins here that are called the bridge pins. At the end of the guitar is a little button here called the end pin, which holds your strap. Inside of an acoustic guitar are braces, and this is a typical X brace pattern inside of a guitar like that, invented by Martin about 90 years ago, called an X brace because of the main part of the bracing here shaped like an X, and then reinforced by a series of extra lateral braces, and then finally a maple bridge plate which reinforces where the bridge would be on the front of the guitar. Those are the basics of the acoustic guitar. So, simple, beautiful, but not obvious to everybody.
Yeah, a lot of people come in and just, oh, I need the thing that's up here over the string thing.
The headstock bridge is the one I get. Headstock bridge
is good.
We don't know what that means.
Yes, you confuse us. So, yeah. But just having a basic idea of what parts you're dealing with, is the sort of the step one to, kind of keeping your guitar all in one piece, I think.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Right.
And to some, this podcast may seem a little rudimentary and a little too easy to follow, but I think it's important. I think there are a lot of people out there who don't understand, or not don't understand, but don't, like you're saying, don't know the real name of things, and I think it's important when trying to explain to a repairman what is going on with your guitar that you know what the parts are, and it helps you understand what needs to be done. When he's telling you, the saddle needs to be replaced or the nut needs to be recut or reslotted, that's...
Well, I think our customers really appreciate getting the education, because then they can walk in with their guitar and say, hey, I think the string is pinching in the nut slots on my guitar, or I think my saddles are rusty and it might be inhibiting the tone.
And I think we assume that they know the parts of the guitar, so when we are explaining it to them, we assume, which we shouldn't, that they, the things, the little terms that we're using, they know those things, and which isn't always the case.
Okay.
Yeah, sometimes I get somebody where I'm explaining what we want to do to their guitar, and they kind of go, I'm losing you, aren't I? And then
Just
I sort
tell
of
me
go,
how
okay,
much it's
this
going to be.
thing, right. And just make it work.
I understand the
right.
money part of it. Yeah.
Well, totally. Depending on how busy it is, sometimes you start throwing out terms that nobody knows. Like, hey, we need to do a truss rod adjustment, and then maybe change the height of your saddles. And some people don't even know what a truss rod or saddles are, and already you get the deer in headlights.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I'm going to use the 5/16 hex wrench to do the washburn on the Yamaha. That's yeah.
Next thing we took a look at was Alex. Alex doing some real basic restrings, and there's a skill that even working at the shop here, almost every employee that I've ever hired, no matter what they know about guitars, I spend a lot of time making sure that they know how to do a good restring. And since we've all been around here, for many years now, we're all masters of the restring. So let's take a look at Alex and the restrings.
Okay. In this segment of the podcast, I'm going to go over how to restring your guitar. Definitely an important thing to know if you're going to be a guitar player is how to restring it. A couple things you're going to need to do this little procedure that are nice to have are a little string clipper like this, a little pair of pliers that you can snip the strings off. This magic little device here called a string winder. It has a little notch in it here, which you can use to pull these pegs out, which hold the strings in. Those are kind of the two main things. It's also nice to have a digital tuner of some sort so that you can get your pitches set up. That's what I'm going to use, are those sort of three devices. So the first thing we're going to do is take the tension off the strings here. So now I've loosened the string. I'm going to take my little clipper here and just carefully snip it in half. I'll take this string out of the machine head or tuner. And then right down here is that bridge pin that we've been talking to you about. And what I'm going to do is take my magic little winder here, brace it up against the edge of the bridge pin, pull that little guy out, and out comes the string. Okay. Next we need our strings. And this is another important topic that I want to cover. The main thing you want to do when you're restringing the guitar, if it's playing well for you, if you like the way it's playing, is to try to use the same strings that are on the guitar. Most manufacturers with steel string acoustics tend to use what's called a light gauge set of strings. And a light gauge set of strings will be something like this. Which is we call this a 12. It's a .012 millimeter string, and that's the highest string, the lightest gauge, the smallest diameter string. And then the heaviest string, the low E, is going to be a 53 in this case. So assuming this guitar has lights on it, if we put this light gauge set on there, the guitar should sit about where it was. And so in other words, the playability should stay about the same. There's also a number of different gauges that we could select from. This is a medium set, which is a .013 to about a 56. This is about as heavy as you go. There's also a set here called a custom light. This is a custom light, sorry. And that's about an 11 to 52. And on the lighter side of the spectrum is an extra light, which is about a 10 to 47. This is about as light as you want to go. Like I said, most guitars tend to have light gauge strings. If you're not sure what string gauge you have on there, a lot of times the guitar shop might be able to figure that out for you. So now we're going to put this low E string on here. Okay. Cut, edit. Sorry. Okay, one of the first things, this is a little trick that I do, is we're going to go down to the bridge here. We're going to put the ball end of the low E string into the bridge. And the little trick that I do is I put a nice little bend in this thing. Now I'm going to take this bridge pin. There's a little slot in the bridge pin. If you look at a bridge pin up close, you'll see there's a little slot in it. And that slot we're going to want to have facing down the neck, facing towards the headstock here. So that slot's going to go in here. First we're going to put the string in that has a little bit of a bend in it into the bridge. Then I'm going to gently slide this bridge pin with the slot facing this way right down in there. I'm not going to push real hard here. What I'm going to do is just give the string kind of a gentle pull. If the bridge pin pulls up a little, I'm going to give it a nice gentle push back down in there. You don't really have to mush these things down, because by putting that little bend in there, hopefully what will happen is that that ball will slip into that slot and sort of lock the string in place. So that's what we're looking for there. What we're looking for down here on the headstock here, where the machine heads are, the tuners, is we want to have about 3 to 4 winds around this part of the tuner called the spindle or the tuner shaft. So we want to have about 3 winds around this. So what I do is I put the hole in the tuner shaft, I sort of point it towards myself on the bass side here. On the treble side, I sort of point it away from myself. At this point, I'm going to put the string through the hole in the shaft. I'm going to check that length here at the 14th fret, make sure I have enough slack there. Then I'm going to give it a gentle bend, I guess clockwise and up. I kind of just give it a nice little gentle bend like that. Now the string's kind of clockwise and pointing up. At this point I'll take my hand out here, take it down to the headstock here. I'm going to kind of point my finger like this and take these 2 fingers to hold the string, and I'm just going to sort of, I don't know if you can get that, Ed, but I'm sort of going to keep tension on it, and by pointing my finger downward and just sort of pulling up here. Then I'm going to take my handy dandy string widener. These are about $1.50 at most guitar shops. I'm going to come down here and I'm going to slowly wind this string. It's going around clockwise, and as it is, I'm sorry, counterclockwise, and as it is, it's pushing the string downward, which is going to give us some nice string angle here at the headstock. So we're following that pitch of the headstock. Now I'm going to turn my handy dandy tuner on, make sure that I don't tune it up too high or too low. I'm looking for the low E here, so, oh, there she jumped a little bit. And that's about an E, so that's about where it should be. A couple more things we're going to do here is, one, we're going to come down here and just put this little clipper right on top of the headstock here and just snip the excess string off. Unless you're in a punk rock band, and then you want to take that and take a quarter and sort of pull up like that, and you get these crazy winds around there that you might get stuck in your cheek or something. So, cut! Sorry. So last thing we're going to do here is, now that we've got the string properly wound and we got the bridge pin properly inserted, last thing we're going to want to do is just gently stretch this string. And I know a lot of people, what we're doing when we're stretching it is making sure that the string will stay in tune. When you put fresh strings on, a lot of times they'll stretch out a little bit for a little while. So the one sort of big mistake I see people make when they're stretching their strings is they tend to just sort of grab in one spot and really pull hard in just one area. And really the best thing you can do is just sort of really gently stretch that string by just gently pulling on the string. Just hold the guitar in place so that you don't, lift it up or anything, but just gently stretch that string 3 or 4 times. Then check your tuning. Bring it back up to pitch because it's stretched a little bit. Then we're going to stretch it again. I generally do this 3 sets of 3, and then you should be pretty well stretched out. This will be my last set of 3 here, and we should be good to go. And that's all there is to changing guitar or changing a guitar string on an acoustic. All right, welcome back here. We're going to do a restring on a standard electric guitar. Again, sort of the same deal on the other restrings. One of the most important things is the string gauge. There's a lot of different types of electric guitar strings out there. A lot of it really comes down to taste. But the important thing is that if you want the guitar to play just like it's playing, you want to select the same type of string that's on the guitar. And the most common type of string that you'll find on electric guitars is going to be in about a 9 gauge, what we call a 9 gauge. It's a .009. To about a 42, or a 10 gauge, which is a .010, to about a .046. Those are sort of the two most common gauges. You'll also find this would be an 11 gauge, a little heavier. These two sets here are what are called, this is a hybrid and this is a power slinky. These are sort of mixed sets. You also have strings like chromes, which are like a flat wound, and this is a 13 gauge, commonly used for like electric guitar. But for what we're going to do, we're going to use like a 10 gauge electric string, which is what we restring all of our guitars in the shop here on 10. So 10 is pretty average. So right now we're going to do the same thing we did previously. We're going to loosen that string. And in this case, I'm going to actually take all the strings off at one time. So I'm going to loosen all these strings. You can use your string winder to do that, or you can do it by hand. You're going to find different types of bridges on different electric guitars. Maybe we can do a close-up of a couple different bridges. This particular one is a one-piece bridge with individual saddle pieces here. And if you can see, I don't know if you can see this, but the string just sort of hooks on the back end of this bridge is how this one works. There's other types that are pretty similar to this. We'll do a close-up of a couple different types. Now I'm going to just snip these strings off like this. A lot of times when you get all the strings off like this, it's not a bad idea to maybe clean the guitar a little bit while you're in there. We get these strings out of the headstock. Oh yeah, there's a lot of dust on that headstock, yeah. So I think at this point, talking to camera 1 and camera 2, I'd like to, are you going to jump in here or what?
Allow me to interject. Let me sneak behind here. You know, every once in a while when Alex complains a lot or tries to, you know, kind of passively, aggressively talk about dust and things like that, I like to lay his fears to rest and jump in and take care of such dirty work.
See things how that Western accent thing happens?
It sure does. It sure does. No, I want to talk about you know, a couple tips on cleaning your guitar. You know, once he gets all the strings off and the dirty work starts, first thing you want to do is well, let me just say, you know, at this point in a restring is probably your most optimal time for cleaning the guitar. You've got all, you know, the parts like he was showing you, the bridge. You know, take any sort of loose parts that are going to fall off. Take all that stuff off. This is the best time to clean the guitar because you've got everything is exposed. The strings kind of form a barrier between you know, your human hand and the pickups. Also the tuning machines, things like that. It's really tough to get in there and clean when you've got the strings sort of intertwined in there, and you know, your polishing cloths, things like that, seem to get stuck on the strings, and it just becomes a drag. So once you get to this point, I know it kind of makes restringing you know, a long process, but it's definitely worth it. So when we get here, let's start off. First thing I want to say is that I know there are a lot of things laying around the house that may seem like a good idea to use to restring the guitar. You know, back when I was kind of growing up and didn't know much about guitar when I was a kid and just first starting to play, I used to watch my mom clean all the expensive furniture around the house with N-Dust or Pledge or Johnson's Paste Wax, things like that. Bad idea to use that. Reason being, those sorts of things leave a wax behind. And what you don't want over the years is to build up a wax on top of the finish of the nice finish of the guitar, and later on what happens is that stuff starts to cloud up and it becomes a problem. So what I would suggest very simply is anything that you could buy at a music store, at a guitar store that says guitar polish on it, perfectly safe to use on your guitar. Best thing to use. Don't use anything from the hardware store or your local grocery store. Not a good idea. So let's get started. What you want to do, you do not have to worry about getting this polish on electronic pieces, in the tuners, things like that. That's all been, they've formulated this kind of stuff and they've thought ahead, and it will not harm any of that stuff. And in most cases, it's a good idea to get it all on there because it's going to clean it all. Might stop things from tarnishing and whatnot. So just go for it. Cover the whole guitar. Spray the whole top of the guitar. And what we use, and what's a great idea to use, is anything 100% cotton, something that doesn't have any loose, any coarse threads on it. Something real soft, and just a little elbow grease. Just rub that stuff until you've got it nice and dry. It may seem cloudy at first, but you'll find that guitar polish tends to dry really quickly if you just give it a little wipe. So we're going to do that. Get it in between your knobs, things like that. Pickup selector switches. You got your pickups. What I'm also going to show you is a little different to clean your fretboard. Fretboard, we're going to use what's called lemon oil, and this is primarily used on rosewood and mahogany not rosewood and ebony fingerboards. All right, so cleaning the neck. What we want to do, it's a good idea to polish the frets. You want to do this maybe once or twice a year. What we use for this, like I said, is steel wool, and at this time, automated steel wool robot. Thank you, sir. I can't stress enough the fact that you want to use the finest steel wool you can possibly find from the hardware store. They grade it in zeros. 0 being probably the most coarse, definitely the most coarse. 00, 000, 40 or 4/0 steel wool is what we use here at the store. Polishes the frets real nice. Does not dull up the inlays on the guitar. Your inlays that are at your 3rd, 5th, 7th fret. So what we're going to do is we're going to get started. Like I said, elbow grease. You want to polish that thing. You're gonna see that steel wool is going to shine up the fret as you go by it, and you'll notice the one next to it's going to seem dull. So you'll know once that thing is polished. You can't over polish it. You can't scratch up or take material off of the fret, so I wouldn't worry about that. Just go on down the line, and what you're doing as you're cleaning the fret or polishing the fret is you're also kind of taking all the finger gunk and finger oils that are going to build up on the fretboard. That's all going to disappear as well. If you don't see it disappearing as fast as you want, just keep going on that portion of the fretboard until that's all gone. So all the way up the frets. Doesn't take very long to do this. Just a few strokes on each fret to get it polished up, and voila, you're done. What you want to do, you're going to have little shards of metal on the top of the guitar. Not a good idea to take a cloth and wipe it because they're still abrasive. They're still going to scratch the surface of the guitar a little bit. So what we just do is kind of blow on the guitar, blow it away, or you can use some of your the compressed air that you use on your keyboard at home. So I just want to blow it off of there. Don't do that, what I just did. We only do that at the guitar shop. We don't tell the customers that we do that, and then they get scratches, and we say, they were there when... No, I'm just kidding. At any rate, I want to grab some lemon oil. Yes, disclaimer. Dr. Stringfellow makes a good lemon oil, which they call lem oil. This is their polish. It looks exactly like this, except it says lem oil
So
down
that's
here.
made out of lemmings, though.
It's made out of you squeeze lemmings, and the juice that comes out really helps on the fretboard. At any rate, this stuff we get from the hardware store. It's great. It's it's a woodworking oil, Formby's lemon oil. Just one bead right down the top of that fretboard, and just follow it up with just a little paper towel. Get it in there. You'll see the woods, kind of drinking up that that lemon oil. And, don't worry about how much you put on there. You can definitely overdo it. But that wood's only going to suck up and absorb as much as it wants to and it needs to. So, what I would do at this point, just let it dry. It's going to look kind of shiny. If you overdo it, it's going to look real shiny and kind of oily. Just leave her go. Probably give it 10 minutes. Walk away, grab a sandwich, something like that. Come back, and at this point, you're ready to restring the guitar. So I'll bring Alex back in.
Excellent.
And you're ready to rock, my friend.
All right, well, thank you, Dan.
No problem.
Okay. That's great.
Cool. That's kind of the way that I was taught how to do it, and I know there's a lot of people that do it a couple different ways. Sometimes when people are winding the string around the spindle, they do sort of an over-under type of thing, which is fine, but I think, the way we do it around here is probably the more common way. So, and the nice thing about having it in digital is if you don't get it the first time, you can always rewind and watch it over and over until you get the hang of it. So I think it was worth our while doing it. So
one thing I want to add is, especially when it comes to electric guitar strings, those top 3 guitar strings look identical when they're kind of all wrapped up, and depending on what sort of packaging or how they package the string. If you do happen to take everything out and lay it down on the table and you don't have the little string sleeves in front of you, what I've noticed is if you take a wound up guitar string and actually flex it in your fingers, you can tell the difference between which one's the G, which one's the B, which one's the E, or if you actually take the wound end of it, the part by the ball, and compare those, you can kind of line them up the right way. When I was first starting to restring guitars myself, I would constantly switch the B and the E string, and that was always such a drag because you cut one too short, or it'd be all wound up, and you go, "Why does this one feel so tough, and this one's real easy to play?"
I've had people bring in guitars that they're like, "It doesn't feel right," and it's like they've mixed up a couple strings.
It's a real easy thing to do, and I think that little thing. Someone taught me that at some point to like squeeze it and squeeze the difference and feel, and it really helps.
The Charmin guy.
The Charmin guy. Yeah.
Well, guitar shop secrets really help too. So, as Alex showed, putting that little bend on the ball end when you put it in the acoustic guitar, there's probably no book or tutorial that's going to show you to do that little bend, and you'd be surprised how many customers come in and go, every time I restring my guitar, the bridge pins go flying out when I bring it up to tension, and that bend is what prevents that. So,
or they get stuck too.
Yeah, totally.
Sometimes the strings get stuck in there when you're going to restring it again, and that little tool that he used, the string winder, has that little notch in it, and in some cases, and that notch should be able to pull the peg out of the guitar real easy. And if you don't put that little bend on there, sometimes you're down there tooling around. You can really torque that thing and bend it, and that thing won't come out.
Right.
So,
right.
Yeah, you may think.
Two things I also get a lot from people who are 101ers are my bridge pegs. Some of them stick up a little higher than other ones. And it's okay for them to stick up a little bit. You don't want them. What you don't want is have them all the way sunk down in there where they're actually loose in the bridge. So it's all right as long as they're locked in there, and as long as you use that technique that we showed you, it's okay if they sit at different heights. In fact, it's sort of nice if they do sit up a little bit out of the bridge, because that's telling you got some room to grow there.
Resist the OCD reflex to try to get them
make them all
I'm
even.
That's a thing I'm totally guilty of. If they are wrong, the different heights, it totally freaks me out.
And definitely don't ever take anything and tap the bridge pins down into the bridge.
Right.
So like Alex showed, push it down with your thumb. That's it. And they definitely should be sticking up a little bit. You look at new guitars, new Martin guitars, and whatnot. Those bridge pins are all sticking up a little bit, and that accounts for, over years, that pin will wear the wood there, and eventually those pins will fit looser and looser. So you want to have them sticking up a little bit to begin with.
Yeah.
And you don't have to. You can be real gentle with them. The other thing I was going to mention that I get from time to time when people are bringing in a guitar is winding the string backwards on the headstock.
Yep.
Sometimes people, generally speaking, if this is the headstock, here's your bass side, here's your treble side. I've had people wind them counterclockwise on the treble side, and that puts a lot of stress on the nut. And so a lot of times people will come in with with their nut, and one side of it's broken, and I'll see that they've reverse wound those. So again, you always want to do sort of counterclockwise on the bass side and clockwise on the treble side.
Think about it, yeah. If you're when you're restringing it, you kind of want it wound so the string is closest to the opposite side of the headstock.
Grab that Telecaster right there.
Yeah.
In a perfect design, a string should always come over the nut and stay in a nice straight line to the tuning key. If you take this string and wrap it to the wrong side of the tuning peg, it's going to pull that string off at an angle. So that's called straight line with a headstock design, and that's optimum. So if for some reason your strings are pulling way off to the side to go to the tuning peg, you're probably going around the wrong side of the post or the spindle there. So try and keep your strings in a straight line like that.
Yeah, and this is an example of a guitar where all the machine heads are on one side. So you'll see some that have 3 on each side, or what we call 6 in line. So this will be a 6 in liner. So.
And Dan, you generously jumped in and helped Alex do the cleanup on that the last guitar.
I sure did. Once in a while, I got to man up and do things like that. And, it's not a pretty job, but
dust yourself
someone
off
has
and
got
then
to
dust
do
off
it.
some guitars. And,
Tell you, pruned up fingers from all that polish. It's horrible.
Well, cleaning, it's a really crucial thing to do for your guitar. I mean, some people don't like to ever clean their guitars,
They
and
want
then you get the years of buildup. Then they usually bring it to us, and we're doing sometimes major scraping and cleaning of just old skin and grease and whatnot off a fingerboard.
I used to use so much Pledge on an actual Fender, like an old Fender guitar from the 60s, and at one point, to clean it up and sell it, I had to, somebody else had to strip all this wax off the top of the guitar, and it was amazing how beautiful the finish was underneath. So it may in the meantime make the guitar look nice to use these sorts of things, but over time it's just going to look like garbage. Yeah.
Yeah, and on the well, are we going to watch this? Well, I was just going to say, if you have a lot of gook on your fretboard, like Dan was saying about getting all the gook off the frets in the fretboard, if you don't do that, it goes on the strings. You can put a fresh set of strings on and immediately get all the skin and gook on the string. And that's somebody calling to disagree with me. But
Our first caller.
Our first caller. Caller number 1, Cincinnati, Ohio.
Yeah, this is what happens when you call during business hours when we're actually not open.
Guitar shop?
And
Hey, Kid Henry, this is my son, Kid. How's it going?
We've got a long-distance dedication here from Kid
No,
Henry.
you didn't
From
ask me
down
to
the
bring it to the
street.
store, but no, it's in the garage.
Is he picking up the Batmobile?
Close. Baseball glove. He's going to the Brewers game.
nice.
Excellent.
Okay, what was I going to say? Cleaning tips, fingerboard.
Fingerboard.
Oh, in terms of the general cleaning too, somebody was just asking me recently, I've just put on fresh strings and they're already dead. It's summer, it's pretty humid here right now, but please, if you want your strings to last a little bit longer, after you're done playing, you've got sweat and moisture that's built up on the strings. They're going to corrode really fast in this kind of humidity. Take a clean cloth and just pinch each string and wipe off your sweat. Your strings will last a lot longer. And it's just one of those little tips, but if you're trying to prevent having to change your strings all the time and want to keep your guitar cleaner, give it a little wipe down after you play it.
We're done.
Now we're going to take a quick peek at electric guitar pickups, actually electric and acoustic guitar pickups that I gave us the 101 on pickups. Let's look at pickups. If you are in Guitar 101, you know what one of these is, the electric guitar. And the heart of the electric guitar is the pickup. I'm going to give you a little talk about how pickups are made and the differences between them. On an electric guitar, a pickup is called a magnetic pickup. And it's called a magnetic pickup because it has a set of magnets that picks up the vibration from the strings. This is the core of a guitar pickup. It is the bobbin. This particular bobbin is an old Fender bobbin. It has 6 little magnets that run through the center of it that is going to be wrapped with about 7,000 windings of this type of wire. This is magnet wire, and it's insulated and very, very fine, finer than a human hair. And it'll be wrapped around this bobbin, right around those little magnets. These particular magnets are made out of a metal called alnico, which is a mixture of aluminum, nickel, and cobalt. I guess that would be an alloy, wound together to form a single coil pickup. The final part of a single coil pickup is going to be these little leads that come off of it, one of them at one end of that wrapped wire, one at the other end. So one of these is going to be going in and one coming back out. This single coil pickup has steel pole pieces that run through the center of it and a cheap ceramic magnet stuck on the bottom that magnetizes it. Very often on cheap import guitars, that's how you'll find the magnets or the pole pieces magnetized. Single coil pickups like the Seymour Duncan one that I just showed you here, this is the Seymour Duncan Antiquities Strat single coil pickup. One coil, and because it's a single coil, it tends to amplify 60 cycle hum noise that you get from fluorescent lights, neon signs, can sometimes be a little buzzy. So back in the mid-50s, a guy named Seth Lover invented the humbucking pickup. Humbucking pickup is two single coils wired together. One of them is wound clockwise with the wire, one is wound counterclockwise, and then one set of magnets has north polarity and one has south polarity. The physics of this particular design makes this pickup noise canceling. Still has normal output, nothing is weakened by this particular type of wiring, but it kills all the noise that you get from 60 cycle hum, fluorescent lights, and neon signs. Single coil pickups can come in different varieties. They can come encapsulated completely, like this Danelectro pickup here that they call the lipstick tube pickup. Back in the 50s, Danelectro actually bought lipstick tube covers to cover up their single coil pickups. Humbucking pickups can come in different varieties too, with or without covers, different sizes. This is a mini humbucker, so the actual pickup is that little silver part in the middle there, which is much smaller than a standard size humbucker. Acoustic pickups have a different characteristic. Although they do make magnetic pickups for acoustics, this is a Seymour Duncan tube. This is a magnetic pickup that fits in the sound hole and acts very much like an electric magnetic pickup. But most acoustic guitars these days are using some type of what's called a transducer. And that's some type of little piece like this, which actually sticks onto the guitar and works based on vibration. This particular transducer would be vibrated, and at the frequency of the vibration changes its polarity from positive to negative at the frequency of the guitar and translates into an acoustic tone. They also come in a variety like this little guy here, which is a transducer that sits underneath of the bridge saddle on an acoustic guitar and also works on vibration. So that's basically the fundamentals of pickups for both acoustic and electric guitars. No ending. And that is an out-of-tune guitar. And that is the basics of guitar pickups. So the basics of pickups. Another, I think, one of those 101 things that is so obvious to us, but not necessarily obvious to everybody else.
When I hear the word bobbin, I think of something that you put in your hair. Now, is the bobbin like the base of the pickup? I wasn't clear about that.
Well, the bobbin is that whole part. Have you ever worked with a sewing machine before?
No.
Oh, okay. I have. A bobbin, it's basically a little spool that holds, on a sewing machine, it holds thread. So it's the whole spool that holds the magnet wire. So that whole bottom, the top and the bottom together with the pieces in between, mm-hmm. which can be magnets or they can just be steel pieces, or in the case of humbucking pickups, the bobbin is just a plastic bobbin, it has no magnets or anything in it. Those go in later with the screws.
Now, when the wire is wrapped around those magnets, is there separation between that, or are they right connected? I mean, is it touching the magnets?
On old pickups, they're actually touching the magnets, but the magnets are dipped in an enamel
so you want
to coat them. And the magnet wire is also dipped in enamel. There's different types of coatings that are on the magnet wire to prevent there from being any electronic interaction. So they can't
be electronically touching. Right. Okay, that makes sense.
So even though that wire is thinner than a human hair, it is shielded.
Right. There's no way to really make an electric magnet. If they're touching, it's got to be.
And the magnets are dipped on the ones where it actually does wrap right around the magnets.
All right.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Is that there's, in terms of us kind of recommending different types of pickups for different types of applications, we're pretty tuned into that. But at least for me, the basic mechanics, I know it's a magnetic field you're creating and the string is, disturbing that magnetic field or resonating within that magnetic field. But the basic physics of it, I guess, in some ways I don't understand. It was nice to hear about the different magnets and different the amount of wires and things like that. I mean, it's like sometimes I think people think they want a certain type of pickup, and they describe what it is they're wanting sonically, and they're selecting a pickup that maybe is or different from what they're actually going for. And so I think understanding the different magnetotypes and different types of pickups in general, it was good to know that kind of stuff, just to know what kind of sound you want to recommend to somebody, or what kind of sound you're trying to get for yourself or whatever.
It's really surprising the different materials that make up a pickup can really determine sound. I mean, there can be some pretty night and day differences.
Oh yeah.
It's fairly simple, and what I covered, I would even say, is beyond Guitar Shop 101, because some of the components of a pickup is way beyond what a lot of beginners even want to think about. They just want a pickup on their guitar and know that it's making the sound that,
Right.
that they
I want it loud. That's all I want.
But it's fundamentals. Like I always teach my son with sports and stuff too. Is make sure you know your fundamentals, because that's what you build upon. Don't try and learn to do a behind the back layup before you can do a perfect regular layup.
Right.
With pickups, if you understand the way a pickup is made, then when somebody starts talking about, bigger, stronger magnets, there are pickups that have magnets with a wider diameter, different materials of magnets, and whether or not the magnet is at the bottom of the pickup magnetizing steel, or whether or not the magnets are going right through the coil. And then finally, the number of windings of that magnet wire and the thickness of that super fine little magnet wire can affect what's ultimately the output of the pickup based on the resistance of that coil to the flow of electricity. So, the fundamentals, then as you learn more about pickups, it's all just going to make sense, and it's going to be so much easier to make the smart decisions.
Yeah, and at $70 to $100 at a pop, it's, obviously you have guys like us here at the shop that can, kind of break it down for you, and let you know, what pickup's going to do and whatnot. But it's, I think it is important to know, the DC resistance, how that's going to determine output and tone.
Right, and also, at least to me, the one of the biggest things you should probably get from, if you have an electric guitar, out of the 101 thing, I think, is as Wade was saying about the placement of the pickup and how close it is to your strings. I think it's real common for people to go, oh, my pickups are, I want it louder, so I'll raise them right up to the string. And I've had guys come in going, my guitar is buzzing everywhere, and I'm look at it and the magnets are so close to the string that it's literally pulling the string down. So, that's a good thing to know in a 101 sense, is that, that magnet actually physically can move that string. So you want it in the magnetic field, but you don't want it so close to the magnet that it's physically pulling on the string, because that can cause buzz, intonation issues, a variety of other problems that you might think is the neck. You might think it's this, that, or the other. You might have gotten a bad guitar, and it's literally just one little detail, like where your magnets are in relation to the strings. So
I think SeymourDuncan.com, that just their website, I think they inadvertently educate you on pickups in general, because they sort of describe, we use this sort of magnet to get this sort of sound and this many windings, and I think it's really helpful. They're obviously they're selling their product, and they're explaining to you why you want this, or
Right.
But like I said, inadvertently, you really do get a handle on what materials do what, and I've learned a lot just by looking at their information. So.
Definitely.
Education. That's anybody who offers you an education about this stuff and doesn't demand a price from you, that's what it's all about.
Yep.
Take free education as you can get it, man. That's about the only thing in this world.
That's what we're trying to do here. An educated customer is a better customer.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, I think that's about it for this week. We're going to wrap it up. Guitar Shop 101. So this is the Guitar Shop Podcast, Episode 4. As usual, I want to thank Ed over here and Jocelyn over here. You guys are amazing. Check us out on our website, wadesguitarshop.com. You can find information about the podcast, including the notes from each podcast there. We're on iTunes. We're on Neuro. And send us an email if you have any questions, comments. It's wadesguitarshop@sbcglobal.net. On my right here, Dan. Thank you, Dan. Another good job.
Thanks for tuning
Alex
in, guys.
over here. I'm Wade. Wade's Guitar Shop. Episode 4. We are out.
Awesome.
No, I'm not sure.
Okay. So we need to just make some real quick. The answer to question 1 is C. It's the distance from the nut to the middle of the 12th fret doubled. Some of you maybe thought that it was from the nut to the saddle at the low E, but that does not take into consideration that the saddle has to be moved back to compensate for intonation, so the answer was C.
Landslide at the rear, at the what you call it.
Question number 2 is false. Nylon string guitars have 3 plain nylon strings and 3 nylon core strings that are wrapped in like a silver wrap.
The answer to question 3 is D. Only adjust the height of your pickups after you understand all of the parameters related to pickup height. And that can include the strength of the magnets, the type of strings that you're using, whether they are nickel-plated steel or pure nickel, and the gauge of your strings. Don't bring them up super close to the strings. Louder is not necessarily better.
And roll. And whenever you're ready.
Whoosh.
Answer to number 4 is A. Guitar polish is the only thing you should really use on the finish of the guitar. Oils are going to be too oily. They're only used for the fingerboards, and household cleaners are too harsh, and they leave a waxy buildup and may hurt the finish, actually. So, number 4 is A.
The answer to question 5 is C. It changes the key that you're playing in. If I'm playing in open G and I capo at the 2nd fret, I'm transposing one whole step. Now playing my G chord will put me in the key of A. So the answer is C.
Yeah, sorry.
Go for it.
The answer to question 6 is true. Bridge pins can enhance tone. There's a number of different materials that you can use, including brass, ebony, rosewood, even synthetics like tusk, it's called. So the answer is true. They can enhance tone.
All right, I'm ready.
All right.
All right, the answer to number 7 is D, all of the above. When looking at an oscilloscope, a sine wave will turn into a square wave when distorted. And the circuit of an amplifier can cause distortion as well, which is the desired effect. And actually, back in the day, you used to rip speakers to get a distortion effect when you didn't have effects pedals and you didn't have it in the circuit of your amp.
The answer to question 8 is B. Run a straight line from the bridge to the nut to the spindle of the tuner. D is also acceptable. Allow a little extra time.
No, I'm not sure.
The answer to number 9 is B. When plugging in your guitar, you should always use a shielded cable, otherwise you'll get unwanted noise.